Hello on a Whim listeners, and welcome to episode 11 of season 2 of the On a Whim podcast. My name is Paul Vela. I am one of your co-hosts, and today I am joined once again by Grover.
Grover, I'm your co-host.
Hi, Grover. Yeah, Grover Whimindie the fourth. He returns for another episode
of On a Whim, right? You said On the Whim.
Did I?
Yes.
Yeah, it is On a Whim.
Yeah.
Yes. This is the first time I think I made that mistake.
Quick, what season are we on?
Yeah. This is season 2.
Season 2. Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, hopefully, we gave you a teaser last episode and we wanted to just jump right on into the topic.
Right.
And about Pokemon and how the metagaming part is being made easier. But before that, I want to remind the listeners that On a Whim premieres every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific time. As we covered in the last episode, Grover is a stickler for that.
Yeah, I am.
And you can catch an episode wherever you watch podcasts, right? So shouts out to Shadoe Trammell, our audio engineer, who has...
Oh, they have their work cut out for them, Paul.
Who definitely has their work cut out for them, exactly.
The last episode, hopefully, you had so many errors.
They can salvage my audio and my quality. Shout out to Lucia Lee for the art.
Thanks, Lucia.
And shout out to Jabari Lewis Smith, who is normally our co-host, but he's still working behind the scenes. He is taking a hiatus.
Thanks, Jabari Lewis Smith.
Yeah. So, but he'll still be, like I said, posting behind the scenes, and he'll be back soon enough. So let's just jump back in and let's talk about Pokemon and how it's changing as we know it.
You just kind of threw me in the deep end here. I was going to ask you,
I tend to do that. That's what I do. I throw you in the deep end.
Yeah. So you were asking Pokemon in its future?
So we did touch this in the last episode, where the metagaming, the barrier to entry for metagaming is being lowered. And we did mention our asses getting kicked by Matt.
That's right.
Throughout high school, throughout college. And we just didn't know. It was an unknown.
And known unknowns. But I am the complete wrong person to ask about the future of Pokemon, because I completely skipped the last generation. I completely skipped the last 2 sets of games, right? So there was, for the Switch, there was Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, right? Where they got rid of traditional catching methods, right? You would just use, you would flick the Pokeball with your hand, right? To catch the Pokemon. There was no battling Pokemon, wild Pokemon. And then they went into Sword and Shield, which was the new generation, right? And I didn't play it because of Dexit, right? And for those who don't know what Dexit is, what happened was Game Freak developed a new philosophy where they would only input the Pokemon that are in that region. And if they are not in that region, they cannot even be imported from previous games. And a lot of the Pokemon that I use were not allowed into Generation 8 at the beginning. And I was like, I can't support this, right? You are your marketing tagline was gotta catch them all. And now it's gotta only catch a subset, right? It didn't make sense to me. So I said, you know what, I'm skipping this generation. And if they ever decide to put all the Pokemon back, I might come back. And I know that comes up to present day when during Pokemon Day, which was a couple weeks ago, they announced the remakes of Generation 4 games, Diamond and Pearl. And the remakes are Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, right?
Yeah.
So that's where we are now. And before I kind of get into my thoughts on Pokemon remasters, I kind of want to hear your views on where Pokemon has kind of gone. Because I kind of gave my overview of why I don't play anymore, but maybe you might want to give your insight.
Well, I have mentioned before, talking about Pokemon and how I was not a fan of the hand holding that was present in Sun and Moon, right? I played Sun, and I felt like
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't 8 years old. I was 28, a veteran Pokemon player.
Yeah, that sounds about
and
right.
there wasn't a challenge, right? There was no hard mode that there was in Black and White 2, right?
Right. Yeah, I love that. It made all the Pokemon 5 levels higher.
Yeah. There was no challenge to it, right? And it was baby's first Pokemon game, and that's when our friend of ours bluntly told me, "Hey, Paul, the game isn't meant for you anymore. You are not the target audience anymore." And it took me a second, and I thought about it, and you know what? You're right.
You're right.
Absolutely correct. So I stopped playing. But I was in a very unique. I had a very unique perspective when it came to Dexit.
You were already done.
I was done. So the argument for or against Dexit, I was a non-involved party, right?
Yeah.
So I had that unique perspective, watching the community that I loved and was once a proud member of rip itself apart.
It tore our friend group apart too, because I said I wasn't playing. John said he wasn't playing. You weren't playing. And then Gino, who has skipped every generation since Gold and Silver, pretty much, he's like, I'm going to start playing now. after all the years where that didn't happen, right? He decided to start playing again.
Right.
Because it's a console game. That was his reason. Like, when Pokemon comes to consoles, that's when he was going to play.
And
again.
To his credit, that was always his thing. He really wanted Pokemon to come to a mainline console game. So, for context, Gino Quesada is a friend of ours. Yeah. He's worked for the studio. He's an artist. And and throughout high school, he said if it came to a mainline console, he would play it. And I admit, I would tell him he was full of it. He was smoking crack, and he is ridiculous. Pokemon is never coming to
I do love the crack.
To a mainline console game. Okay. Yeah.
No, I don't do it.
No, we don't do that. We don't do that here. So the fact that Gino was right, it's one of those just.
But here's the thing, Paul. Those were the second console games, right? We had Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, and those were console Pokemon games, and he didn't play those. Or maybe he did. I don't know.
I think he said maybe. But
Oh, okay. Like a new generation.
But I think it was implied that it had to be a main generation game.
I see what you did there.
But you can, But I was looking at the situation. When I was far removed from it, the arguments for people were saying that they've had these games they've had some Pokemon since Generation 3, right?
Yeah.
And the other side was saying, well, that sucks to be you, deal with it, right? And it was saddening to see the community was ripping apart, and I envisioned very much the alliance system before World War I, where like we like Pokemon. We only friendly with each other because we share that commonality, right?
Right.
We both enjoy Pokemon, right? And it's uniting all these different people, right? The casuals, the competitive. people who enjoy for different reasons.
Yeah, I like the exploration aspects of it, and I'll get into that more a little bit about why I'm excited for Diamond and Pearl.
Exploration's a great reason why to enjoy it. A nice casual reason, right? But then, as there's people, as we've discussed, who are hardcore metagamers that will spend so much time breeding Pokemon for the perfect IV, the perfect nature, everything's going to be perfect. And I'm never going to say, how someone should enjoy the game, whether one way's better than the other. Right. But,
right.
But it was one of those, like, how dare you tell me how I should enjoy this game, and vice versa. And a lot of people within the community do not share that same sentiment with me, right? A lot of people are very quick to say, you suck and you should feel bad for sucking.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, it was refreshing to be on the outside looking in, whereas we're in Mass Effect 3, right? These schisms that form within gaming communities. We mentioned, as we mentioned before, the entry level, the barrier to metagaming is coming down, right? So we're training for EVs and training for IVs, and nature is so much easier.
Right.
So let me ask you this, Grover, what do you think? Do you think gamers, Pokemon players, who are the old school breeders, IV, EV trainers, are going to look down upon people who got into that kind of metagaming training in Sword and Shield because it is easier?
Ooh. I think that's a toxic way to look at it, right? Because to them, now it's going to be that the bar is going to be even higher because it's easier to catch up, right? It's easier to catch up with switching natures and stuff. It's going to be even easier to kind of get to that. It's bringing the ground up as opposed to the ceiling down, right? The good players are still going to be good players. You're still going to have those people that are going to breed their Pokemon with the perfect stats and stuff, and that will still be better than just changing your nature over and calling it a day. But it's bringing the gap a lot closer, right? It's less grindy, if you will. But I feel like Pokemon got simplified in other ways too, right? With Sword and Shield, you had the wild area, right? They completely, I might have this wrong, but they completely got rid of dungeons in Sword and Shield. At least the base game. I don't know about the DLC or anything like that, but there is no caves. There's nothing like that. It's like there's your routes that link city to city, and then there's your wild area. And that kind of simplifies it to me a little bit too,
And I've mentioned that in a stream when I was gaming with Jordan, with John Dishaw, who
you guys have another
who has
another
stream
show, right? The Anatomy of an Idiot.
But yeah, that's John's podcast that I am a co-host part of, and John has streams, right. And I came on while he was playing Sword and Shield, and I had my 2 cents about how gamers now, Pokemon players, will never experience getting ambushed by your rival character after you've dragged and clawed your way out of a
Victory
cave.
Road.
Yeah, Victory Road.
Beat the Elite Four. When you beat the Elite Four and you thought you beat the game. Oh no. No.
Yeah, exactly. Hanging on by the thread every doo-doo. Exactly. So that's gone. And does that lessen the experience for a gamer? I don't know.
I will say, when I played Sun and Moon, the original game was easy, but that Elite Four and the Professor were probably the hardest Elite Four Professor challenge I faced. I barely beat the Professor, and I thought I was like, oh, this game's a cakewalk. I get to the Elite Four, oh, it's a cakewalk, and then the Professor was like, oh my gosh, I barely hung on. And I was like, why could the whole game be like this?
Because I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I wish I had an answer. We'll even let Shadoe go ahead and leave that awkward pause in there, because that is definitely a valid question. From a marketing standpoint, if I put my marketing hat on, you do want to lower that barrier of entry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where because you do want to sell to the next wave of 8-year-olds who saw Ash Ketchum in the anime, whatever season it's in, he's finally won, and he's finally become Pokemon Championship.
Alola, I think, which is
he won the Alola League, right?
Yeah,
that happened. They finally let him win, but you have to give people a chance to become Pokemon fans. So it makes sense that you would throw out and cast out as wide as net as possible to get these next generation of gamers. And as we both know, us gamers are a fickle bunch. We are spoiled. We get mad. We throw hissy fits when things don't go our way. So it's going to be really hard to see how it's going to be really interesting to see. Well, my thoughts,
and I'm actually looking
this next dev is going to stitch back the community back together.
Pro are, but I think that Pokemon has outgrew what Game Freak is able to do, because there's a lot of things that it's like, are they not able to do it because they don't want to, right? They're just putting their heels in the sand. They're like, I'm not gonna, this is Pokemon. This is what you're gonna do. This is what we're gonna do, and you're gonna like it, right? Or is it just like, hey, we're a small indie company. We can't model all these Pokemon. We can't develop all these dungeons. We can't. You wanted 3D. This is as much as we can do in a year's time frame, right? Because they release a Pokemon game every single year.
Right.
And I've played Game Freak's other games. I bought Giga Wrecker Alt for the Switch, and it's kind of meh. It's missing that magic there. I maybe got a couple hours in, and I was just like, I'm not feeling it. And I heard a lot about the similar reviews about their other game that they released called I think it was called Town or Project Town or something like that. That it was just kind of a meh game. Like I'm hoping Pokemon's not there. No, I heard they developed Harmonite for the 3DS, and I heard that was pretty good. But I'm just hoping that it's not like Pokemon's not like their one-hit wonder, right? And they're able to kind of branch out and have that. But this kind of gets into that Pokemon Remasters and Remakes, right? Pokemon Diamond and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which are coming out, are the first games to not be developed by Game Freak, right? So that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of excited for it, because Game Freak has kind of gone into this direction of, they're doing the same game with less and less features every time as graphics and as technology is getting better and better and better. And what I kind of want them to return to a simplistic art style, if it means we get more content, we get more dungeons, we get more, more areas, more things to do. Because you've mentioned this earlier, when you played Sun and Moon, you beat the game, there's nothing to do. Oh, there's the battle tree. Or was it the battle tree? I think it was the battle tree.
Yeah, I think there's a post-game part where you're fighting the evil team at the end. Or was it X and Y? I don't remember. Yeah. They all blend together.
But every game, as technology's gotten better, it's like, okay, beat the Elite Four, game's done. There's hardly any post-game content. And Pokemon Gold and Silver were one of my favorite, not only Pokemon games, but one of my favorite games of all time. The reason why I loved Gold and Silver was that, it had the perfect amount of battling, it had the perfect amount of exploration. When you beat the game and you thought you beat the game, like, oh, by the way, there's this whole other region. Remember the region from the original games? Yeah, you can go there too. They got the president of Nintendo to go in and try to rearrange the space on the cartridge just to fit the original region in. Sure, there's some parts that were cut down so it could fit in the cartridge.
Like Cinnabar Island was burned down.
A Pokemon Center, right? They got rid of Seafoam Islands. They just changed that into a one-room gym, and they got rid of Viridian Forest, right? It just became like this very simplified maze. But 80% of Kanto was there, you know, and it is a miracle all that fit on the Game Boy. And I feel like after Gold and Silver, that magic kind of went away. With Ruby and Sapphire was the first kind of real refresh of Pokemon, where they're like, okay, you know, new region, can't carry anything over, you know, new graphics overhauls and stuff. And then with X and Y, I feel like it started to go downhill because with X and Y, they went to 3D, right? And the battles got really, really slow and laggy. And, you know, they can only fit so much in. And by the time you get to Sun and Moon, it's like, okay, you know, they were mad at them in Sun and Moon for recycling a lot of X and Y's models and stuff. And then it's like, why did you have to remodel all the X and Y Pokemon for Sword and Shield? You know, I feel like, you know, they remodeled them for the high definition consoles, but I feel like they should have future-proofed that a lot sooner. And when they had to remodel it all over again for a second time, it's like, you know, they couldn't model all those Pokemon, and it's like they don't know scope, right? And I feel like if they had stayed with that simplistic art style with like black and white, or with you know, maybe just with sprites, even if they didn't make that move to 3D, we would have there would be a lot more content and people would still be happy with the franchise.
So let me see if I from the consumer point of view, right? Let me maybe the marketing hats, right? I'm not Jabari, but I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
So
sure.
We as a marketing department, you are in a constant pursuit of sales.
Mm-hmm.
And you and me remember Gold and Silver. We remember that golden age of Pokemon.
Yeah.
While we remember, the 8-9-year-old that's coming up does not remember that. So how do you maintain the attention of someone who, you know, someone whose their games are Among Us, who watch TikTok and YouTube?
You're sounding like an old man. A little bit with the Among Us and the TikTok.
I've become the thing that Sword destroyed. But that's really interesting.
Yeah. So
how do you maintain their attention? I'm sure there is a long-term study that shows that population, that age range, enjoy seeing 3D characters, and I'm sure it's been focus tested, and the 3D figures versus, you know, just sprites.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure the money was right. There's going to be more money in 3D going that direction than otherwise.
Yeah. It's also, but to be fair, it is also cheaper if it's done properly, right? With 3D, right? The reason why a lot of, you know, cartoon films are 3D now is because, you have you made a mistake. Let's just re-rig the model and re-import it, and boom, it's done. It's fixed. If you mess up a 2D sprite and if you mess up 2D art, you have to redraw the whole thing over again, and you have to recut the sprite sheets over again, and it takes a lot of time. And then you got to do that for 1,000 Pokemon. You know, I get it, but the thing is, if you're having to remodel them every single game, you're no worse than just doing it in 2D in the first place. Now, I'm speaking different from the focus testing and the marketing, like what you were talking about, right? But to me, it's like, if you want to do it 3D, future-proof it. Like, you know, there's 1,000 Pokemon. You know you're gonna have to release a game every year. Why did you have to remodel it every single game? You know, to the point where it's like, it's a significant undertaking. You've had Pokemon in 3D for almost 10 years now. I don't know. That's partially why I think it's kind of outside Game Freak's scope. And they're moving. I looked up the developer. It's Ilka. It looks like Ilka Inc. They're going to be the new developers for Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl.
Ah, okay.
And you notice, if you saw the trailer, that they went back to a very simplistic it's still 3D, but they went back to the simplistic DS-like graphics. Instead of doing like full 3D overworlds and things like that they did with Sword and Shield. And I think that's a brilliant direction. I know it's getting a lot of flack, like, oh, this looks as ugly as a DS game. But, I would love to play that. I would love to play, it's definitely going to have improved sound and things like that. And the battles are still in 3D, right? They're using the 3D models that Sword and Shield used for the battles. But the overworld, it's like, why you didn't have to redo Sinnoh in complete 3D. Just do it in the way that it was there.
Yeah, that 2.5D kind of style.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
So, here's another game I can think of that that the original developer walked away from.
Okay.
And I'm thinking Halo and Bungie.
Yeah. Yeah. So 343
right,
Industries, right? They took over.
Yeah, 343 took over from Bungie, the Halo franchise. Yeah. Bungie came to a point where they said, we want to go in a different direction. We did great things with Halo, Reach, and 3, and great times were had by all. So, for better or for worse, 343 took the mantle of Halo, and
that's a subsidiary of Microsoft. It's a different thing, right? Bungie wanted independence. They didn't want to be owned by Microsoft.
Big
anymore. M. And the big M. And Microsoft said, okay, but we keep Halo. And, when Bungie, they went off and made Destiny.
For better, for worse.
I think. Yeah. And they're like, okay, they made a team in-house of either former Bungie developers or, Microsoft in-house people. And they made 343, which is focused on continuing that Halo series, So that's kind of the reason. It was like corporate politics there. But I'm not a Halo fan, and I know Shadoe's probably going to be editing this and going crazy that we're talking about Halo.
Without them, yeah.
But that's their thing. That's like if you guys were talking about Final Fantasy, I'm like, you have this information wrong, and you have this information wrong.
For the record, when I have brought up Final Fantasy, I had my correct information.
100% right. But I am definitely not in that same thing with Halo because I'm not a Halo fan. But I just know that that's what happened there, and I don't know what was I don't know enough of Halo to know what's better or for worse, But usually the original developer in most cases are usually the better developers than the ones that kind of come in to save the franchise.
So that's a good point. So at what point is it a salvage job? Yeah. At what point is it a clean handoff per se, right? We can make it better versus bringing it back to its shining glory, right? Did 343 come in and salvage Halo?
I think your dog's agreeing with you.
Yeah, that my dog's barking in the background there. So Shadoe, I know you love Sydney, but if you hear anything, just make sure to cut as much as you can. But that if whatever reason you hear Sydney, that's my German Shepherd.
Yeah,
great dog. I love her to death. Just barks at the wrong times. Anyways, but yeah, Bungie decided to end things with Halo 3, right? The Master Chief series, anyways, right? He did his job. He did his
game over.
Blasted him out into space. Game over, man.
Right.
So 343 had a nice clean handoff, a good jumping off point where they can the room was not on fire. It's quiet. The opposite. They were in the dead of space, right? They for better for worse, they did the story they wanted to. So how much
Ilka
baggage
ILCA
they didn't have to worry about. which is unlike what that developer. Yeah. How much baggage are they going to have to navigate with Pokemon? Right. The community's on fire, and they're going to have to deal with a lot to do this right. And as we agreed upon earlier, this is a little bit of a toxic community, right? What can they do to make this better?
Yeah,
in your opinion?
I'm actually looking at Ilka's website right now, and it stands for I Love Computer Art. So that they've worked on other games, Dragon Quest XI, which is a famed Square Enix property. It looks like they worked on a lot of mobile games. It looks like they are a pretty big company, and they put a lot of passion into what they do. There's let's see, Code Vein, Nier Automata. Oh, they worked on Nier Automata. They worked on Ace Combat 7.
Ooh, okay,
Yeah.
maybe that's why they sound a bit familiar.
Yeah, so it looks like they work with a lot of different developers to bring, as a co-developer. So it doesn't sound like they're like this newcomer that doesn't know what to do. It looks like they have a lot of game development experience, and I think they might be able to help take on that baggage, especially when they can come up with this high quality graphics and stuff. They might be able to model all those missing Pokemon. That would be awesome. And I will love them till the end if they are able to do that, able to do what Game Freak can't do.
And we've had to do that as a studio, right? We've had to reduce projects in scope.
Oh, absolutely.
How much baggage can we keep carrying with us? How much baggage can we handle until the ship proverbially takes on water, right? The stuff, all these things is weighing us down.
Yeah, I think that without naming, confidential projects or anything like that. I think I'm a little upset with Game Freak is because they're doing something we've been guilty of, where it's like, okay, new game, we're going to do everything from scratch all over again. I'm like, you've been developing Pokemon for 20 years. You got to have some, 25 years, I think. Yeah. You got to have some kind of base to go off of that you can build off of as a template for future games at this point, right? A game's going to come out each year, and I tell this to the team. It's like, our goal as Whimindie developers, we're not here to build anything from scratch. We don't have the time, we don't have the money, and we don't have the resources to build something completely from scratch for every single game.
Yeah, we don't have the human capital for it.
We don't have it. And unfortunately, a lot of people are taught in school that if you don't make something from scratch, you're plagiarizing. And yes, plagiarism is a real thing. Yes, stealing games is a real problem, right? There's how many knockoffs of Flappy Bird have you seen, right? We accidentally played a knockoff game in one of our streams recently, and we got a lot of flack from one of the developers for it.
Really?
Oh, you didn't hear about this?
No. Enlighten me and the listeners.
So I think I don't remember. I don't know when exactly the stream is going to be posted. But in early March, we did a stream on for our Whimindie stream on Twitch, and it was for this game called Codenames. But we were playing a game called Cody's. And we posted our tweet. And one of the developers came on. He's like, "Oh yeah, please support our official game next time." And it was very passive aggressive. And I was like, "What? Why are you doing this?" We didn't know we were playing a knockoff game to begin with, and two, I feel like the developer went about it the wrong way. But where am I going with this? Knockoff games. We shouldn't be building a game from. While we don't have to build a game from scratch, we should be taking up maybe buying a foundation or something from the asset store, and then putting our spin on that game mechanic and making it our own, right? Mm-hmm. You don't want to just release the asset store thing and then just release it again. That's what's called an asset flip. And that's what Cody's was to Codenames. It was kind of like a simplified version of the game that was a knockoff game just to capitalize off the the popularity of codenames. We're not here to do asset flips, but we are not here to build anything completely from scratch either. We have to make our own spin on things that have our own Whimindie twist to it. But we also can't be wasting our time and resources on like coding things that are freely available online.
So let me ask you this. Yeah. At some point, isn't everything a knockoff of something else?
That's exactly the lecture I give to students, game design students. It is very rare that something's going to be completely 100% original. You don't have to make something 100% original, but you also, if something exists, you have to say, one, why do people like this game design? And two, either how can you make it better or how can you put in some kind of twist to have your people play your game?
So what I'm thinking is, TV, right? TV wise, you can say The Simpsons was the original animated cartoon family geared towards adults, right? Before them, Flintstones, Jetsons was more kid. But
Family Guy's switch on that, right, was that the baby not can only speak, but he was diabolical. He had all these plans of his own, right? The dog can talk. The dog was super liberal, right? It was clearly inspired from The Simpsons, but they had their own twist on it enough to make it their own.
And then Family Guy then springed multiple spin-offs, right? American Dad, Cleveland Show was a spin-off, and then there's Bob's Burgers
and now The Great North. I think that's one of the new ones.
Enchantment, whatever it's called, with Futurama for sure. I mean, same creator as The Simpsons, but at some point, Family Guy, the crossover with The Simpsons, the judge on who the imposter was Fred Flintstone. Because both Homer and Peter Griffin are the imposters of him. The dumb dad, head of household, the original one.
Correct. Yeah. Seth MacFarlane was originally going to do a reboot of the Flintstones, but they canceled it.
I would have hated it.
Well, that's why they canceled it. He couldn't find a way to set it apart from, without cannibalizing plots that he was planning for Family Guy.
So coming back to gaming,
Well, I mean, Pokemon had its own. Temtem. I know I was talking about Temtem a lot, and I'm really excited to play it. It's out for PlayStation, it's out for PC, but you catch. I think you catch them in like these little like plastic cards or something like that, and then you throw them out 2 at a time. It's 2-on-2 battles. All Temtem battles are 2-on-2. And they took a lot of the criticisms people were having with Pokemon and a lot of the baggage that people were having with Pokemon and fixed it. And I'm excited to play Temtem because I don't have baggage of that with that series, right? I don't have these I don't have Temtem from a previous game I can't carry over, and it's when it comes out on Switch, I'll probably give it a playthrough.
So, yeah, that's the best way to go into it, right? You like Mass Effect, right? You're going to go into the first game with no baggage, right? You don't have no negative preconceived notions.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, the whole, we're working to this point where not every game's an original. We're going to have to accept that one day, Salad Trio will be, will breed spin-offs.
Well, see, Salad Trio was heavily inspired off of Salad Trio. Is if I can make a Final Fantasy game, that's what it would be like. That's what Salad Trio is.
So now my question is, the game that we streamed, how, if that's the right word to say it?
So yeah, what they did differently was that Codenames is a lot more complicated. There's a lot more setup involved in order to play it. And Codease was like, it was a simplified version with less rules, less baggage, less setting up. And I was saying to the developer, And I'll say it on this podcast. Instead of criticizing other people on Twitter for playing the knockoff game, you should take what people like from the knockoff game, right? Why do people play it? Why do people like playing that? Instead of saying, oh, you should support our official game, take that and make that a simplified mode in your game itself, so that people can play the original one without all of the extra rules and all the extra setup that your game requires.
Can I ask how they replied to that?
Huh?
How did they reply to that?
No, I never sent that as a reply. I'm just that my reply is in this podcast.
God, I thought you sent that as a reply. Well, no. Developer of Cody's, if you listen to this podcast, hit up Grover. He's on Twitter.
Yeah. Well,
I know nothing pisses Grover off more than passive aggressiveness.
True. Jabari did respond to him because we didn't know we were playing a knockoff until we had his reply, and our team was like, oh, I didn't know. I was like, it's okay, but one, we need to do our due diligence to find find the distinction between real official games and knockoffs, and that developer shouldn't have responded in that way.
But so that begs the question, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much we can do our due diligence for sure, right? But at what point are we not going to play a game because it might be a knockoff, or it is a knockoff?
I'm not going to leave that decision up to me. I don't do streaming.
Yeah, me
often,
neither.
So that I'll leave. Yeah, the streaming team will do that. They'll do that. If we make our best judgment we do our due diligence, then we're okay. We don't have to do an hour of sleuthing to find out what's a knockoff and what isn't.
Right.
But
right. So let's say our streaming team does do its due diligence, right, finds out it is a knockoff,
mm-hmm,
but it does what the game it knocks off better. Why not play that game? It's already a little bit better. Why not play it? Then your point applies to the dev, right? Why don't you look at it and take the feedback and commentary? Why isn't your game better?
To me, if I was the developer, I'd take the Smash Brothers route. And when I mean Smash Brothers route, right? Smash Brothers was designed to be played with any character, any stage, with items on. That's how the game was designed to be played, right? But the accepted tournament method is to have flat stages and, or flat stages with one or two platforms.
And no items.
With no items, right? But the developer's like, okay, we see people like to play this, so we'll call this, for glory. They call it for glory rules. But to me, not having that mode is like those developers of code names, right? Or just like refusing to put those simplistic rules in, and just saying you're gonna play it our way or else.
Or else what?
Yeah,
exactly.
Customization is important, and you can't really stop piracy. People are always gonna pirate. People are gonna pirate Whimindie games. I can't stop that. If I try to, we had talked about DRM and everybody's like, no DRM, no DRM ever.
Why is that?
And
why is the gaming community so vehemently against DRM?
We're telling them what they can do with what they purchased. We don't. It implies a lack of trust.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this:
mm-hmm.
In the beginning of every DVD, there's the FBI warning.
FBI disclaimer.
The piracy is illegal and punishable by.
But Paul, those FBI agents are right outside with your dogs.
Yeah, and
they're playing with them as we speak.
And they're listening into this podcast right now. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And as soon as you say one wrong thing, they're going to take you outside. They're going to take you out back.
Again?
Again.
So, let's look at video games.
Mm-hmm.
Video games are a little bit different than how DVDs are, right? When you buy a game or a product, any software, there is an end user license agreement. We're just informing the person who bought they're buying the unlimited license to use
for any digital purpose or
to use it.
Not purpose. That is true for any digital purchase.
Mm-hmm.
where you own the license to be able to use the software. You don't own the software.
You don't own the software.
And the company can take it away from you at any time without refund. Steam can shut down tomorrow, and all your and games are gone.
SOL.
Right? And a lot of people is like, well, that's convenient to pay when you have easy access to software through, but who's to say, something won't happen to Steam, or something won't happen to Nintendo, or something won't happen to XYZ. And then you all of a sudden you don't have access to all those hundreds of games you've played.
Which a lot of people, looking on their Steam, look at these massive games on their virtual library, and they haven't even played some of them.
Uh-huh.
I had a friend recently add me on Steam, and they called me out, and they mentioned, "You're not a Steam guy, huh?" And I'm like, "No, I don't. I don't have a lot of games on Steam."
Oh, I don't. I have maybe like 8 or 9 Steam games. That's about it.
Yeah, my friends know to, when they buy me something, to get me physical media.
Yeah.
Actual game cartridges. That's just the times we're in.
Yeah. Go ahead.
With the community that we're in, we're making this pivot towards e-commerce, right? A lot more virtual libraries. And like Grover said, we don't know how long these companies are willing to, what if Valve one day says, you know what? We've had a good run. We're closing down Steam. Then now what?
Yeah. I don't think that'll happen, because that's not how companies work.
Oh yeah, me neither, for sure.
But
they're just printing money at this
point.
There's a
very real... I don't think it'll happen with Valve, but it has happened already. And one thing that made me really paranoid was the Nintendo Wii Shop from 2006, right?
Yes.
I purchased so many Super Nintendo games through that, because I was concerned that my cartridges were going bad. And I purchased like Donkey Kong Country Trilogy and Zombies Ate My Neighbors. And that's one of the games that is almost impossible to get now, because it was developed by LucasArts. And LucasArts got folded into Disney, and they shut down their games division. And so I can't find a copy of Zombies Ate My Neighbors, and Nintendo doesn't sell it virtually anymore, because they don't sell it on the Wii Shop anymore. And I can only hope that might go on the Switch as part of their, Super Nintendo online thing, right? But who knows how long that's going to be? Nintendo can one day say, okay, Super Nintendo Online is now Super Nintendo Offline, and you can't play it anymore. And
they just mock you and do raspberries at you.
But, I'm hoping my Wii doesn't die, because I still have those digital purchases. And technically, yes, I can still go on the Wii Shop channel and re-download them, but I can't purchase them anymore. Right? So if my Wii dies, that's it. Game over,
man.
Game over. Yeah.
That's the brave new world we're facing, eh, Grover?
Yeah. So I'm like you. I have a priority. I'll get the physical release if I really care about the game. Right. And I want to make sure it's there for a long time. If it's something that's really on sale, or I don't really care about the series, I'll get a digital purchase. For example, for Mario Day, the Mario Day sale, which ended on Saturday, they had Super Mario Party for only $30. And Nintendo never discounts their games. I was like, I can't dodge this purchase. I got to get this. So I bought that as a digital purchase, but I'm not a big Mario Party fan. I just wanted to have the game available. I could play with my brother or something, but something really important I'll buy as a physical. And I think that's why limited run games is doing so well, is that they'll do these once a print physical games for indie games on Switch or PlayStation, and they sell out like hotcakes. And they're the one of the very few companies that are making a consistent profit off of selling physical media. One of the only companies that are doing that. And
doing it well.
Because they only do a limited run, and then that's it. then they move on to another IP, they move on to another indie game developer, and that's it. Yeah.
So what will you encourage a gamer the next 5 years? Physical media, or were they gonna have physical possession of it, or virtual?
Unfortunately, I don't think physical media will last much longer. I think what we're going to be getting much larger hard disk drives in our. We'll be getting much bigger SD cards for like Nintendo consoles and like Switch, portable systems like the Switch, right? I put a 512 gigabyte micro SD card into my Switch.
Yeah, you and me both.
Just to handle that, right? And that's my quote unquote physical media that holds all my game downloads and stuff, right? And Nintendo games can be played offline. So once I purchase it and it's downloaded to my Switch, I have it. And it's on that micro SD card, right? But Valve and Steam is a little different because you have to connect to Valve and Steam every time you go on Steam, right?
Right.
They verify through the Steam that you purchased the game and all that stuff. So you need to have online to play. And if something ever happens to that, then you're screwed. But for future consoles, I just don't they tried to do it last generation, but it was too early, right? When the Xbox One came out, they said, oh, you don't have to have physical media. You just have to have an internet connection. And players revolted, right? They were so mad. I was upset. And then they had that whole PlayStation thing, right? Where the two guys like, this is how you share used games on PlayStation. Here's the game. Thanks. You remember that? Remember that ad?
I remember. But another thing I remember is EA, right? One of the consistently voted worst companies ever, due to Consumer Reports and everything. I remember when they made SimCity online only. Okay. And you can only access your city through EA Play or whatever it's called, right? And I remember just the bile that came from that community, right? How dare they go to an online only format? And as EA does, double down and pretty much said, well, if you can't connect to the internet, you're not having a good experience. And it's like one of those like
Don Matrick, who was the president of Microsoft Gaming at that time, right? Or I might have the title wrong, but he was up there. He was one of the executives. He's like, there's a console for people who can't always be online. It's called Xbox 360. And people they were mad. Mm-hmm. PlayStation 5, right, has two options. You have your version that has the disc in it, but it's a little fatter. And then you have the slimline model that doesn't have a disc at all. And I'm pretty sure Xbox has the same thing going on. At this point, right, why do you want a disc drive, right? You want to be able to play your PS4 games.
Right.
You want to be able to have PS5 games that maybe can't fit onto that hard drive.
That will run out of space eventually, yeah.
Yeah. So there's still reasons to have that. But those, as the generations go on and on and on, those reasons are going to get less and less and less. I don't know when, but there will come a time when maybe, like, for example, this is not a confirmation. I don't have any inside knowledge
as far as we know.
But like, what if PlayStation 6 does what like laptop computers do, right? Most laptops don't have a disk drive in them anymore. The laptop I have my eye on getting doesn't have a disk drive. But what you can get is you can get a USB dongle that can attach to an external. So like, I rarely use my Blu-ray disk drive in my laptop. So why? Yeah, I barely use it at all. I don't think I've used it in 2 years. But if I want to watch a Blu-ray, I can just get an external Blu-ray player and attach it to my new laptop with a USB, and then watch it that way.
The way of the future.
But what?
Whether you want it here or not, it's coming.
Yeah, but like say for PS6, right? PlayStation 6, like I still want to play my PS4 games. They can always have like an external dongle that can read the PS4 CD, and then you just plug it in with a USB or something. And then when you don't want to play it, you can just store it somewhere else.
At an added cost, though.
Yeah, and then just play your PS6. You know, that's what I would like. I would like to have that the backwards compatibility. Yeah, the PlayStation can understand it, but it would need this external dongle to do it. Apple does this. Laptops do this. I'm thinking game consoles will probably do this as well.
I mean, Nintendo's is known for these, for this kind of ingenuity, right?
Oh yeah,
where, add-ons for like the N64, the Rumble Pack, and other things like that. It's not unprecedented, but it's going to be exciting to see what this next generation of gaming will be like. So just to tease you listeners about what's coming in the next episode, me and Grover will be discussing our stints as admin as guilds and all gaming communities. Yeah.
Yes.
And then the different personalities that we encountered in these communities. And then some of these personalities that make these communities as toxic as they are, right? So if that sounds something you want to listen to, please tune in. Remember, On a Whim premieres every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific time, right?
Oh, it'll definitely be daylight by the time this airs.
Oh yeah, it's going to definitely be daylight savings time by then. But yeah, listener, thank you for tuning in and listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and subscribe, give it a rating through whatever, however you enjoy listening to podcasts. 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 8.6.
7.8 out of 10, too much water, yeah.
Yeah, too much water, yeah.
Bring it back to Pokemon, yeah.
How to bring it back all the way around back to Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm Paul Vella.
I'm Grover.
And we've been your co-hosts for the On a Whim podcast. Until next time, keep it nerdy.
Over and out.